Hello. Welcome back to Grade Core Business Studies. This video, we want to look at a question from a question paper from March 2023, and we are going to look at a question 6 on that question paper, which is an essay question on business roles. So it is on professionalism and ethics specifically. So this is a question that we have, and given a scenario that we are given there before we go to the question. And the scenario reads businesses are expected to conduct their operations in an ethical and professional manner guided by the key core principles of corporate governance. Tax evasion and sexual harassment may pose challenges for businesses. Businesses should therefore develop strategies to deal with these practices to remain competitive and sustainable. So I believe that now that's where we are now given the requirements of the essay question. Our first point reads outlined ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices should be conducted. And the second point explain how businesses can apply transparency and accountability as key code. Please discuss how tax evasion and sexual harassment pose challenges for business and unprofessional business practices are discussed above. So our question is got 40 marks. And obviously, in terms of how we are going to come up with our essay, we are going to start with the introduction, and obviously we go to the main body, and we finish with our conclusion. But obviously, according to this video, we are not going to go through the introduction and the conclusion. We are going to concentrate on the main body, whereby we are going to start by looking at the first point, which is these outline ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices should be conducted. So the question is actually asking for ways that if they are employed in operations of businesses, we are going to see positive effects coming from those ways. So in other words, they are just right ways that are needed to push the business forward in a positive direction. So basically, that's how we are going to articulate it. So we are going to see that we have got various options in terms of ways that should be employed there. So we are going to see that businesses in a way should, for example, hire honesty and financial be it accountants with good credentials, so that the image of the business is enhanced, and also the funds of the business are put in the hands that are effective. So basically, that's what we can try to put down. And also, you should see that the business, another way that we can try to raise is it should engage in ongoing training development, whereby it trains all employees in the business. So basically, the issue of training workers is to make sure all the workers are able to work in that organization, and obviously push the organization or the business in the positive direction. So basically, those are some of the points that you can raise in the form of ways ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices should be conducted. So, and also we can also try to raise the issue of decisions that the decisions made by the business must be clear and transparent to all stakeholders. So this is how we can also engage with our stakeholders so that they are aware of what is transpiring at our business. So basically, that's what we have. So if you go to our section, you'll see that we have got various options that we are given in terms of ways which should be employed. So we go to our other section and try to see what we have. So you see that at this, we've got a long list of ways in which our professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practices should be conducted. The first point are that business decisions and actions must be clear or transparent to all stakeholders. And then the second one, business should be accountable or responsible for their decisions and actions or patent rights. So this becomes the second point. And then the third one is for financial officers with good credentials to ensure transparent reporting and recording and handling, obviously, of financial statements. And then next, we've got the payment of taxes should be regular, tenuous, and the business must disclose all needed information to SARS and notify loopholes to avoid paying taxes. So This is another point that we can also try to raise. And then the business should draw up a code of ethics or code or conduct which sets acceptable behavior in the business. So you see that these are the points that we can raise. But according to the other section that we have got various options that are going down that we can try to raise. So we can just try to see other points that we have. We have got a long list, but obviously, in terms of a question, you can try to pick 5 that are applicable there, that is for you to comprehend. So these are the options that we have according to this video. So going to the next question, it reads, explain how business can apply transparency and accountability as key code principles for corporate governance. So in this requirement, we see that we have got the issue of key codes. And obviously we need to start to see what does key code say about corporate governance. So you see that key code defines corporate governance as the exercise of ethical and effective leadership by the governing body. So now you see that at the end of the day, and now the purpose of King Code is to create an ethical culture in organizations and also to ensure the business or organization has a good reputation, obviously. So basically, that's what we have in terms of what is the essence of the King Code according to corporate governance. So basically, our question now is saying, explain how businesses can apply transparency and accountability as key code principles for good corporate governance. So we are going to start with transparency. As we try to define transparency so that we can try to understand transparency before we answer the question. Transparency basically is doing activities in an open way without any secrets. So that other parties can trust what is being done, and whatever is being done will now appear fairly and is being done in honest. So basically, that's what we call transparency. So our question needs us to discuss how business can apply transparency. So obviously, we have got various options also that we can try to raise in terms of how business can apply transparency. So obviously, in terms of their activities, the activities that are going to transfer that business or organization, they should indicate transparency. So we can try to bring down the issue of the decisions that are being made. They should be clear to all stakeholders. So that's also being transparent, and also in terms of the audit reports, obviously that are going to return for that business. They must be accurate and available to shareholders. So that's being also transparent. Again, we can try to also bring again another option of making sure that every activities that are happening and in terms of the board of directors, they must report on both negative and positive activities that are having that are transferring in that business or organization. So basically, that's how we can try to come up with the answer section in terms of this question, or this part of the question, which is point number 2 in terms of transparency. So we go to answer section and try to see what does it say about transparency. So you see that on transparency, the first point says decisions or actions must be clear to all stakeholders and open and transparent. And then the next one, employees or shareholders or directors should be aware of the employment policies of the business. And then go to the next one, auditing and other reports must be accurate or available to shareholders or employees. So those are some of the ways that can make whatever is transferring in that business to be open to everyone or to be transparent. So basically, go to the next one, which says regular audits should be done. So business deals should be conducted openly so that there is no hint to the points that we can include. But obviously, we have other points that are going down that we can also include. So we now go to the next part where we have the aspect of accountability. So going to accountability, we know that accountability, as we try to describe it, as big as possible to what you do, and also be able to give a satisfactory reason for whatever you have done that are being accountable. So on accountability, again, we are also let's try to go back to the question and try to see what exactly does the question say about accountability. You see that our question reads, explain how business can apply accountability as key code principle. for corporate governance. So obviously, that's how we are going to go about it. So we go to our answer section now and try to see inability. The first point is saying thereby, when there is a regular communication that is transparent between management and stakeholders, it's going to enhance the issue of accountability in terms of it becomes clear on who is answerable on what activity. So on the next point, it reads that businesses should be accountable or responsible for their decisions or actions and to audit financial statements. Then the board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively. Businesses should present accurate annual reports to shareholders at the annual general meeting. So this is what we have in terms of the points that is still remaining. That is, our top management should ensure that other levels of improved accountability. So these are the points that are supporting the issue of accountability. So basically, that's what we have in terms of transparency and accountability according to the key code there. So we can try now to see in terms of the next part of the question that we have and try to see what does it say. So the next question reads, discuss how tax evasion and sexual harassment pose challenges for businesses. So obviously, we also need to understand what actually we mean by tax evasion. So tax evasion is when an individual or a business illegally avoids paying tax, which is regarded as a criminal activity. So it's basically criminal activity when we have individuals or businesses avoiding paying a tax. It becomes a tax evasion, and we are saying it's a criminal activity. So it's a criminal activity that is subject to penalties and fines. So basically, that's the description that we have in terms of tax evasion. So we are going to bring in terms of how tax evasion poses challenges for business. Obviously, the first challenge is very clear that it is going to attract fines and penalties, which is a big challenge. So basically, it's going to increase the costs of production. The costs of the business is also going to increase as they are going to pay some penalties, which is obviously a negative effect in terms of the operations of the business. So basically, that's what we are. So we go to another section, try to see what does the other section say about tax evasion as a challenge to businesses. So we try to see. The first point is that businesses may pay heavy fines for evading tax, which is very clear. Then tax evasion may negatively impact on the business image again. So remember, we have got potential investors that need to invest in our business. So they are going to maybe turn away in terms of buying shares if it's a company from a company. So basically, those are some of the negative effects that might be there in terms of the image that is going to be depicted by the issue of tax evasion. So we go to the next point saying the accountant may charge high fees for falsifying financial statements. So through the process of tax evading, obviously you are going to involve someone who is going to falsify the financial statements. So the process also is an expensive process, which is not necessary, which you are going to incur more costs, and if you are caught again, they become more cost on top of more cost. So it becomes very negative in terms of the operations of business. So this is the third point that we have. The next point says businesses may lose key stakeholders if the act of tax evasion is reported. So those are some of the points that we can include. And over the next point saying some businesses submit fraudulent or incorrect again are the same point that is maybe going hand in hand with the first point that we have. Then I'll go to the next one saying businesses may not be familiar with the latest changes in tax legislation. So these are the points that we are having that are supporting the issue of tax evasion as a challenge to the operations of the business. So we go to the next one, which is now sexual harassment. So we start by understanding what is sexual harassment, but sexual harassment includes the issue of unwelcome sexual advances that are made or requests for sexual favors, or we can describe it from the point of view of verbal or physical harassment of sexual nature in the workplace. So that defines sexual harassment. So how can it be a challenge to businesses when we are having such a scenario? So the first point that we have in terms of sexual harassment is The affected party is normally reluctant to report the incident due to fear of victimization. So obviously, this is affecting the employee himself or herself due to the effect of sexual harassment. Then we go to the next one. Sexual harassment causes discomfort or humiliation and interferes with the job of the victim. So obviously, it's going to again affect the productivity of the victim, which is the worker, when a worker undergoes sexual harassment. The next one, the business can lose female workers because they do not feel safe in the workplace. We know that sexual harassment, the victims usually are women. So obviously, we are going to see that females are going to maybe move out of the business by quitting jobs, so that they are afraid to be sexually harassed. So basically, that can be also a result, which obviously is going to be a negative impact because these workers are going to go out. So basically, those are some of the points that we can try to raise. The next point is saying sometimes the affected person prefers to stay away from work and the business lose productivity. So maybe the affected worker is going to be absent for work, and the period that worker is absent, obviously, productivity is going to go down. Then the last point that we have, sexual harassment causes emotional trauma, and the victim's attitude will be negative in the workplace. So obviously, these are some of the psychological negative effects that are going to affect the worker as a victim. So basically, that's what we have in terms of sexual harassment. And we go to the next part of our question and see what it requires. So the last part of our question reads, recommend strategies to deal with the unethical and unprofessional business practices discussed above. So these are the ethical and unprofessional business practices that we've discussed are tax evasion and sexual harassment. How the business can deal with the tax evasion. So basically, we go to our answer section again, trying to see the points that we have in terms of tax harassment and in terms of sexual harassment and tax evasion. So we start with the issue of tax evasion. So in terms of our response on the last part of our question, which is saying recommend strategies are to deal with unethical and unprofessional business practices are discussed above. We can try to see in terms of the points that we can try to raise. So the ways in which our businesses can deal with the issue of tax evasion, obviously, is to make sure that the business pays everything that is taxable in the business. So basically, in that way, the business should try to submit the correct tax returns to SARS on time, so that it captures everything that needs to be taxed, so that it can not fall in the bracket of tax evasion. I remember we were saying tax evasion is going to attract some penalties and fines. So in that quest, we should try to avoid it by submitting the correct tax returns to SARS on time. The second point, all products should be correctly invoiced and recorded. So invoicing also can be an area that can make us look like we are evading tax, but when we are not. So we should correctly invoice and record all invoice. So this can also be an effective way. So the business also should disclose all sources of income for tax payment purposes. So all sources of income also should be disclosed. So we go to the next one, keep abreast with the latest SARS regulations and tax laws. Also, this can make you be updated and in line of what is required. The next, the businesses that have evaded tax should apply for amnesty and declare their income. So this is another process. The amount of tax to be paid should be in place. This is what we. So these are the points that we can include in terms of way or strategies to deal with tax evasion. So obviously we have other points that are following that can be also correct in terms of dealing with tax evasion. So on the other hand, we also have to look at strategies to deal with sexual harassment. So on that part, we go to the next part to see the response on sexual harassment and how to deal with sexual harassment. So the first point is saying every business must investigate internal complaints to determine the seriousness of the harassment and follow disciplinary procedures. So obviously, at the end of the day, we have to have some disciplinary procedures that are going to deal with scenarios that transpired in the business or organization in terms of sexual harassment. The next point, the business must formulate a policy regarding sexual harassment. And then next point, they must educate employees on sexual harassment matters because some of the workers might not be aware that the acts that they are undertaking they are in the bracket of sexual harassment. So they need to be educated of what is right and wrong in terms of sexual harassment. Then I'll go to the next point. They must create a good working environment where all employees' rights and dignities are respected. And then serious cases or matters of sexual harassment should be reported to the appropriate institutions, such as South African Police Services, which is the SAPS. So obviously, the point is trying to say that serious cases of sexual harassment should not be dealt with maybe through the disciplinary hearings in the organization of business, but should be referred to appropriate places, and that includes the police, which is South African Police Services, so that they can deal with criminal issues. So we go to the last point, which is saying businesses must ensure they comply with the law or business code of conduct. So basically, this makes it also possible that they deal with the issue of sexual harassment. So basically, and that's what we have in terms of sexual harassment, which is the last part of our question. So thank you for listening. Those who have subscribed, please subscribe and share. Please share the link to our colleagues what we can call for business studies. More technical explanation questions will be uploaded on this channel. So let's get notified. Let's turn on the notification button so that when there are new uploads, we get notified. As for this video, I'm signing out, and let's meet again in the next video.